So every year when Wimbledon comes around, I bet on every single match in the men and women's main draw. And the reason I do this is multifaceted, but the key reason is that I want to learn what happens when you bet completely at random, because it's generally not what you think. But I'm also looking for some edges. I'm sort of saying, well, if I change something slightly from doing something completely at random, exactly what result do I get, and does that lead me somewhere where I can find a profitable strategy? So if you want to learn about what I'm doing and the results that I've got and the sort of things that I find, just watch the rest of this video. So the first thing that I should state here is that I've developed many different betting systems over a large number of years, and they all have the same base. I always work from the same area when I'm developing any system. I could go into a completely new market, a sport or something that I know nothing about, and I always start at the same level, and that is I put bets into the market and I see what happens. And you're sort of thinking, well, hold on, you'll definitely lose money. But the answer is actually very nuanced. It's generally not what you would expect. And then what I'll do is, once I have that data and I've put those bets into the market, then I'll start varying and trying different things just to see, by changing one aspect of what I'm doing and making it non-random, does that get me closer to a decent strategy or further away from it? And then I just continue to evolve strategies from there. Every single strategy that I've developed over the last quarter of a century has come from that solid base. I don't, pull up some mathematical paper and then spend hours digging through it. I'm not some sort of incredible genius that the likes of which has never walked the earth before. It's a really sort of base level that I work at. And I do this for a number of reasons. One is that if you try and look for something, then you will generally find it, good or bad. And very often that distorts what you're attempting to do. And you see this very often in academic papers where you can tell, immediately start reading it, they're trying to look for proof of one thing or another. When in fact, I think you should discard all of those things and actually work at a lower level and build out a strategy from there. All of the best strategies that I've ever developed have come from that particular process. But every market I go into at any time, I will just do something at random and then learn what happens from there. And I say random, but generally what I am doing is I'm adjusting my stake according to the odds that I see. I have done videos on this, but basically I'm either backing to a target profit or I'm laying to a liability. And the benefit of doing that is that the results that you get will be equalized to the risk that you take. I probably haven't explained it particularly well there, but that is how you should stake into a market. Using level stakes doesn't contain information, but if you vary those stakes according to the odds and the risk that you're taking, then that will contain information. I go into a tournament like Wimbledon, and I've done this for many years, and I will go in and do a certain thing, and then that will teach me exactly what happens at random, but also where the opportunities lay within those particular markets. So I want you to have a look at the P&L that's behind me. But what you see behind me here is essentially random results at Wimbledon this year. I could have produced this video before Wimbledon, but of course it would have been related to what happened last year. So I wanted to sort of show you something as the tournament was progressing to give you a better understanding of what was going on. But have a look at this and sort of try and think through what on earth have I done here in order to be profitable by betting without any skill or judgment at Wimbledon, because we're going to explain why this has worked in a second. But also, one of the advantages of using BetAngel is we do have some really good tennis tools in there. So you can get live scores, you can see what's happening within a match, you can plot that, you can understand where a match is likely to go and what the odds are likely to be and so on, all of those wonderful things. So I do use that to its full extent, and I suggest you use that too. But very often what I will do is capture that data and then analyze and try and understand exactly what was the cause of the influence in the output of the sort of results that you've just seen. And that gives me additional insight which I can use in future tennis tournaments. So I'm always looking for interesting angles, bits of information that maybe aren't within the market or people don't talk about. And this graph represents one of those things. This is looking at 18,000 points at Wimbledon. And I'm saying on this particular graph, a player is serving, this is their score within this particular set. How does this score change their chance of being broken? And when we look at this, it's quite interesting because we're not looking at the chance of being broken. We're looking at the difference between what we see and the average chance of being broken. In other words, is there information in there based upon a player about to serve and what the scoreline is? Does that influence the chance of a serve being broken? And the answer is yes, it does. Because if we look at this particular matrix, what you'll see is the numbers at the top, the scores at the top, are the player has to be a break up with those particular scores to be serving and for that to be the scoreline. And the interesting thing is you can see the chance of a break of serve declines at that particular point. It begins to go down. So this suggests that the server has momentum, confidence, or perhaps the receiver isn't feeling so confident at the fact that they're a breakdown at Wimbledon. And if we look at the bottom of this, this is the opposing situation. This is saying the person that's stepping up, and incidentally this is the men's data that I'm looking at here, the person that's stepping up and about to serve is already a breakdown. How does that influence, based upon the scoreline, what happens next to this service game? And you can see that overwhelmingly the chance of a break increases. So what we're actually looking at, we're seeing the raw data, but of course we've got to ask ourselves the question of why is this? And generally, especially within most top level sports, you can sort of say there's a psychological phenomenon going on here. If you're a couple of breaks down and you're playing at Wimbledon, the receiver is sort of thinking, well, I'm probably not going to win this set back. We'll talk about why in a second. And therefore the chance of a break tends to sort of increase. If a player is serving and they're a break up, then obviously a little bit of momentum is behind them and they're feeling pretty confident, and you'll see this sort of similar effect again, and therefore the chance of a break slightly decreases. But of course you get this data and you have to ask the question of why. So let's answer the question of why. So if you've discovered some interesting data, one of the best things you can do to qualify it, to make sure that it's true, is to describe why that should exist, but also to compare and contrast it. So if you're doing one thing over here, you do the opposite over here, and you see how those results compare, because one should be the opposite of the other, and then you can narrow down those strategies and sort of pull it into a position where you're very focused on exactly why you're seeing that variation. But also, there's plenty of statistics in tennis, and that can give you a good clue as well. So when we look at Wimbledon, it's obviously played on grass, and a grass court is very fast and has a low bounce, and as a consequence you're much more likely to win a point on serve. If we look at the men's game, based upon all the data that I've got, they win on average 66.7% of points on serve. And if you look at the women's game, that is always going to be a little bit lower because women aren't as strong and as powerful as the men. And their chance of winning a point on serve is 58.8%, a few percentage points lower. But the interesting thing is when you contrast this to a surface like clay, like the French Open, Roland Garros, because the chance of winning a point on serve at Roland Garros for men drops to 61.3%. They're more likely to be broken at Roland Garros than they are at Wimbledon. And for the women, it drops down to about 55%. So it's very likely that a woman player would likely get broken at Roland Garros as opposed to Wimbledon, where it's a slightly less, but still more than the men. The game at Wimbledon is serve dominated, and typically with the men as well, who have a big, powerful, thundering serve, that can make a huge difference in terms of the rate at which breaks of serve occur. So if we go and look at Roland Garros, we can see in the men's game on average 2.32 games per set end up as a break of serve, and if we look at the women's, it's 3.5, fairly significant numbers there. However, when we look at Wimbledon, we can see that in the men's game on average they only get broken 1.54 games in a set, and it's 2.74 for the women. So again, you can see here that this is saying to us, if you're looking at the men's game and you're looking at playing on grass, then the chance of a break of serve occurring is actually significantly less than you would typically get at other venues. And that goes part of the way to describing the data that we saw on the previous slide. But that brings us full circle back to that P&L that I showed you, and should answer the question, hopefully, of exactly what am I doing to generate that P&L. So if we go back to that P&L that I showed you, what was I doing? Do you have a better clue as to exactly what I did to generate a profit on something that I was betting sort of pretty much at random? And I use the word pretty much because what I was doing in this particular strategy is I was betting to a target profit. So my liability, the amount that I was betting was rising and falling depending upon the odds of the player. But the amount of return that I would get would be fixed. And that's why you see these 98p's on there, because I was backing to a target profit of £1. And obviously there's a little bit of commission on there, but the loss could be much bigger than that. And the reason that I was doing that is because we know at Wimbledon that it's very favourable for a player that is going to be serving to actually win that particular game. So this strategy relies upon backing the potential winner of serve in effect. It's a bit broader based because you have to be objective when you're looking at this particular data, so you need some level of consistency. So I am backing every favourite, I am backing to a target profit, but this is just simply to have a comparison of data between this and prior years. And the funny thing is, by backing the favourite at Wimbledon this year to a target profit, you would have made money. And if you do that on the men's game, quite likely. If you do it on the women's, not so likely, for the reasons that we have just stated. And if you look at prior years as well, and this is very consistent with prior years, for the last 5 years, sorry, because obviously they didn't play in 2020, it would have profited backing men's players every year at Wimbledon just through this simple strategy. And what we're not trying to do here is say, do this next year, because really you want to put a little bit of thought into it. You want to elevate yourself above random. But with that Cetra matrix that I showed you, you can see there are certain points within the match when a break is more or less likely. And as a consequence, rather than just backing everybody blindly, you can obviously look at an individual match and sort of say, well, what's going on within this match? How is it playing out? Who was the favourite? And what is the score? And that would just nudge your strategy just a little bit further forward. So yeah, going into every market and backing completely at random or laying at random, whatever you choose to do, gives you quite interesting information. Because if we pursued this strategy at Roland Garros, then it wouldn't work anywhere near as well as it would at Wimbledon. However, laying to a fixed liability would work pretty well at Roland Garros this year. And you can learn a lot from that. And by gathering that data, looking at it, interpreting it, and then just seeing what little tweaks and modifications you can make to make it a little bit more effective will get you to that point where you'll be able to come up with a profitable betting or trading strategy. So yeah, if you want to know what I've been doing at Wimbledon this year, here's one of the things. I do it every year at every major tournament, and the idea is to gather data, interpret that data, but also put myself into a position where I can elevate myself above that watermark of just doing things at random. So yeah, I hope that video has been useful for you.